card for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. As well. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you. If I do this first, yeah, I wanted, again, I know I thanked everyone before, but this last year I have been through a life of living hell. There's no other way to say it. I was getting over the broken leg, and my car tipped over with me on top of me. And I was stuck in Maria Manor, which is a chamber of horrors. And I'm just now getting back to myself, but the love that I got from PSTA has just overwhelmed me beyond anything I ever could imagine. The gifts, the love. Mrs. Lanham came down, cleaned my apartment, did my laundry. Somebody else brought me a case of Ensure. And there's just no words to express how I feel about my PSTA family. And you people are so lucky to be on the board of a place like this, of the employees and our bus drivers. And even now I get down to Williams Park and they come over and give me a hug and a kiss, and it just meant so much to me. And again, I thank everybody for their love and their prayers.
Thank you, Bev. And I'd also like to thank PSA. I had a couple of council members and people asked about Bev, and emails where I had that staff was, like she said, they were checking on her, they were going to her house, and she was okay, did a good job, and it's good to see her back. Next speaker is speaking on behalf of several people to consolidate their time. Phil Compton.
I'll just defer to the agenda.
Okay. Next speaker then, Seth Mohammed Moore. Is that right?
Yeah, I see Seth. I've been taking the bus for a number of years, and for the past 3 years, I've been taking the 100X no less than 2 days a week, so 2+ days a week. And I would like to bring to your attention that this 100X needs some serious servicing. There's a lack of training among the drivers, and they admit it. The service itself is limited, and every time I hear people that come from, let's say, like up north, like East Coast or up north, they're surprised when they realize they can't go to Tampa after 6 o'clock because it runs so infrequently. And being that that's a commuter route, I feel like that sort of defeats the purpose, because people don't only hold jobs between these hours, and then there's also time in between where the bus doesn't run for 2 to 3 hours at a time. So if you miss like the 11:20 bus, then you are out of luck until 1:20. If you miss the 2:40 bus coming back from Tampa, you're out of luck until 4:40. And I feel like that's extremely counterproductive. And the limited space that it runs in with Pinellas, the 2 Pinellas buses, either the 100X or the 300X. If you live in Pinellas Point, you have to travel an hour, which at one point I did. Now I live downtown, but you have to travel an hour just to get that bus to go over there. And then that bus isn't even always on time. So, and they can't communicate with HART buses. So if it's running late, the only thing that the driver can do, if they're even inclined to do it, which many of them are not, is to pull up in front of your connecting bus to make sure that they can't get out to leave you. And that is, I've heard people say, one person on Monday actually, this lady said, she's going to make me lose my job because the bus pulled up late. And I think in her defense, there was a wheelchair boarding, but that routinely happens if that bus is late, and a lot of people miss the 36 and then have to wait another half hour, and that happens with a lot of buses. And being that the 100X and HART buses have no communication in between them, there's nothing that they can do if they're not inclined to, pull up or honk the horn. And it's just all very counterproductive, and the service itself is not that great. We take it because if you don't have a car, it's your only option. But as the only option, it's still not even doing all that, what it seems to us from a rider standpoint, it's supposed to do. And so I'd implore you all to investigate the service and what could be done to improve the service. And I have my contact information. If you want ideas, feel free to contact me.
Next speaker is Tom Rask.
Yeah, following up on what Ms. Morris said, if I pronounced her name correctly, I had a discussion with Mr. Miller about ahead of schedule buses running 53 miles an hour in a 35 mile per hour zone where my son waits for his bus. There have been repeated cases like this. I think that PSTA has a lot of issues that it needs to address before you even get to your transit plan that you're going to endorse, or your Greenlight balance plan you're going to endorse today. I'm here to talk a little bit about meeting notices, and I don't know if you can see the material I have. Can I place it somewhere or no? I'll just hold it up. I talked to Mr. Zimmet briefly before the meeting. This morning I went by the Park Street Terminal, part of my morning bike ride, and I videotaped and I date stamped it using your own PIS, and passenger information system, that the only information about today's meeting that was up is this. Now, I'm not going to make a challenge to the legality of this meeting. This is the meeting notice. This is something Mr. Zimmet and I agree on. This is what's up there. And this is the email I'm operating under from Ms. I'm going to find it here, from Ms. Bigelow. I don't have it here, but I think you know which email it is, where she says that the way they notice these meetings is in the lobby, which is down Park Street Terminal, Grand Central Station, and the website. I'm pretty sure if you on your way back to St. Pete, if any of you go there, you go by Grand Central Station at 31801 Central Avenue, you won't find this meeting notice. So the point I want to make is, if you take what PSTA says, how they do things, they're not doing it that way. And in a number of areas, that's the case. So quite apart from any questions I have about the Greenlight Pinellas plan, I would argue that this organization has a lot of things it needs to fix. And you should be very careful before you saddle taxpayers with billions of dollars of expenses, money which would flow to this organization. You had somebody get out before me and talk about some of these issues. For me, it's incomprehensible how you can have these issues. I mean, PSTA buses not communicating with ARC buses. I've lived this vision of transit that you want for Pinellas County. I'm originally from Sweden. Grew up there with the high school there. Lived in Norway, Denmark, UK. It doesn't work here. It'll never work here. And I'll talk more about this later. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no more speakers at this time. You have a consent agenda in your packet. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
Any? Okay. So please order our next two action items and go to the endorsement of the Greenlight plan vision first. Right?
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. So as Jeff said, we're moving to item 5B on your agenda, the endorsement of the Greenlight Pinellas plan and vision. The reason we switched the order and that, as you see, 5A is approval of a task order for a financial analysis to be done under our general services contract with Ernst & Young, as well as a review of the assumptions in the alternative analysis by HMTB engineering firm. That will take that next. These two items are linked. The action under this, the endorsement of the Greenlight Pinellas plan and vision, is a symbolic gesture on behalf of PSTA, and we hope the ACPT and the MPO to acknowledge that the technical work is now complete. The technical inputs about what will be in the Greenlight Pinellas plan work is now complete. And there is a resolution, a draft resolution in your packets on page 46 that we can talk about. I've got just a brief PowerPoint to summarize what's in that resolution. But again, what we're doing today is endorsing the vision of the Greenlight Pinellas plan. The fact that the Greenlight Pinellas plan includes transformational bus improvements, the rail improvements as identified through the alternative analysis, and the land use visions that are identified through the work that we've done with the Pinellas MPO and PSTA. Those are the three technical elements. Now, and only now, can we really develop a full an implementation plan of all those elements and a financial plan that will be completed and presented to you at your October PSTA board meeting. And then we're proposing that then ultimately you come back at a November meeting. This is all prior to the Pinellas County Commission officially approving the ballot language and putting it on the ballot in December. That you would come back and you'd have another chance. You would approve the Greenlight Pinellas plan. So today you're approving for the technical work. This is the vision of what we conceived to be. Then we're going to complete financial work, which will have an implementation plan, and then you'll be back again in November. We're proposing in November to approve the Greenlight Pinellas plan ultimately. Again, so you can follow along, I think, pretty well through the resolution on page 46. It basically tries to have, it has a section and a whereas covering each of those three elements: the bus improvements, the passenger rail, and the land use visioning changes. But again, the comprehensive community bus plan has been completed now. The technical work on that has been completed. As you know, it had three scenarios. It had an optimal scenario with essentially no financial constraints. It had a no new revenue scenario, which you saw last month from the consultants, where if the sales tax is not approved by the voters, that then how we would still adjust the bus system to more of a grid-like system, but it would be less than what we have today. And then the new revenue scenario, which is the planned scenario under which if a 1% sales tax were approved and the PSTA property tax were to go away. And that is what, you have not approved that yet. And so that is what it is incumbent in this action today, is to approve the new revenue scenario coming out of the bus plan, which has approximately 65% increase in the bus service compared to what we have today. It goes from the current hub and spoke system we have today with low frequency to a high frequency grid network. It has rapid corridors included in the plan on a number of our most high frequency routes on US 19, Ulmerton, Central, First Avenue North and South. That defines the core network that then the rest of the system complements with new frequencies and new connections over to Hillsborough County and to Tampa, about 4 times as much service over to Tampa, and to the one speaker, finally service in the evenings and on weekends over to the Tampa, and for the first time, Tampa International Airport. Community circulators, increases to our tourist-oriented trolleys is all in the bus plan. And then probably something we heard most through all of the public engagement we've been doing related to the bus service is expanded hours of service, later evening service. Stop having the buses end at 6 o'clock at night. That doesn't really work, even though the highest ridership is before that. If you run the buses later at night, that doesn't necessarily carry as many people, but it carries more people in the midday or at the rush hour if you allow people that nighttime service. It all affects each other. And we've heard that from the public, and we just heard it today. It does include the future plan for a passenger rail system from St. Petersburg to Clearwater. I think you possibly have heard about this. This was approved more than a year ago, and we are approving that the Greenlight plan vision includes the rail plans that were included in the Pinellas alternative analysis. And then last but not least, the work that the PSTA has been paying for in coordination with the MPO to look at how the land use around the 16 proposed station locations might change over time. As you know, we had a number of charrettes focused very specifically around each station location and invited developers and owners and businesses and stakeholders in that area. So when we were around the Morton plant in Clearwater, the room was dominated by people representing Morton plant and businesses and land owners around that area. When we were down in St. Pete, we just had our final meeting on Monday, and it was focused on circulating through downtown St. Petersburg. But again, this is a plan that we are documenting and putting together, mostly in the form of renderings and computerized renderings of how the land use can change or can develop over time. And then this work will now be taken over by the cities and the Pinellas Planning Council to develop the zoning requirements and the zoning changes that are needed to implement these plans. We don't want this to be a pretty picture book that goes on the shelf. It has to be implemented by the member jurisdictions along the alignment. So again, the action today is sort of the first step, and it's largely symbolic. It is to approve of the Greenlight Plan vision. This is the vision for the Greenlight Plan, so that then when we start consulting the financial work, which is your next agenda item, this is what they are phasing in. This is what the financial analysis, that they are using these assumptions based on these elements: the bus, the rail, and the land use changes. I'll be glad to take any questions, and I think we have some public comment.
Move.
Second.
Okay, since this is an action item, are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Mr. Compton?
Good morning, Bill Compton, Regional Representative of Sierra Club Florida Healthy Air Campaign, and Sierra Club is proud to be a partner of the Greenlight Pinellas Plan. Speaking here on behalf of several other folks here, Pinellas residents Bruce Neeson, Karen Lieberman, and Jasmine Orcan today. So I'll take a couple minutes more maybe, but not the entire time that I could promise. First I want to thank, congratulate and thank Ms. Darden Rice for her engagement in the civic committee process of Greenlight Pinellas, taking a lot of time out of her busy campaign schedule to do that. I know those of you who are elected officials can imagine how challenging that might have been, but it was really very important that Ms. Rice be engaged in that, and we really appreciate her time because she helped facilitate that process and move it forward. We heard a couple comments, as Mr. Miller mentioned, in the public comment section about, one's positive, one's negative, and I think those are both valid and very instructive today. The lady talked about how much PSTA cares. I think PSTA staff really cares and is trying very hard. And I don't think the PSTA staff would tell the board or any citizen that the service that we have today is good enough to meet the needs. The service that we have today is good enough to get you across the bay to Tampa or anywhere in Pinellas County, and that's why we're talking about this today. Just tell you a little bit about the civic committee process. A number of our members and friends were involved in the civic committee process. This has been an extremely fair, open, and transparent process. It's been open to everyone to engage in, whatever their opinions are. Some people disagree, people have different perspectives. It's been a forum for people to come and speak about their opinions and to share their perspectives on transportation, the challenges that we face here in Pinellas County, the unique challenges that we face here in this densely populated county. And I just want to tell you that that has been a tremendous process. You should be very proud of what your staff and the conveners like Ms. Rice have done there, because At the meeting last Thursday and at the business committee meeting, there was virtually unanimous support for the Greenlight Pinellas process and, endorsement of this. So you can feel very confident that your business leaders and your civic leaders here, and they assembled a great group of civic leaders, were very supportive of that. For our part, we think this is very important to let people know what the deal is. Let people know before you ask them for their money what they'll get for this and get for their money. And that's exactly what Greenlight Pinellas is all about. It's a very great approach, wonderful approach to let people know beforehand what they'll get out of it. In no way, shape, or form ever implies that anyone should support this at this time. This is rather a matter of, here is what we're talking about. You decide if this is what you want to see for our community. We think that's a very fair approach. Some people would imply that it's a propaganda campaign. I don't see it. I really don't see it. I think it's something where you say, this is what we're talking about. This is what you will get. For our part, Sierra Club, we're working with PSTA to help share this information because there's 900,000, 50,000 people in Pinellas County. It's a big job to let everybody know what the deal is. So we are working with the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber next month to put on public information sessions. That's open to everyone at St. Pete Beach, Madeira Beach, and also in Clearwater, Safety Harbor, and that's just the beginning. We're also going to be organizing house parties so that people can talk to their neighbors and share information about Greenlight Pinellas and spread the word about this so that people know that there is a source of information that is fair and objective and open and clear, and that's what we found it to be in examining it in the Civic Committee, and that they can learn about it and make up their own mind. We really appreciate your involvement in this and appreciate all the work that's going into making this service better for our community and for our region, because obviously people in Tampa will benefit from it as well, and look forward to your endorsement of this process because it really is a great process. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other cards, so you're going to have to fill out the card for Rachel, but if you want to come up and speak.
You don't have to fill out a card.
Don't have to, okay. Come on up one at a time, then.
Well, Mr. Tom Rask, County Corporation, I know Mr. Compton said the process is fair and inclusive. It's topical because that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Now, you can't see the material I have, but here's the material from the Greenlight Pinellas website. This is the front page. And in the title it says, "A Community Conversation about Transportation in Pinellas County." And you're going to endorse a plan that your advisory committee on Pinellas Transportation has not endorsed yet. I think you all know why they haven't endorsed it. There are 5 news items on the front page. And the first 2 of those 5 are links to St. Peter's blog by Peter Schorsch. And the first one talks about upgraded bus service. And Mr. Schorsch says, he talks about the proposed penny sales tax increase advocated by the PSD and its support group, Greenlight Pinellas. Support group. I don't see, that statement appears on Greenlight Pinellas' Facebook page and other marketing collateral. And I don't see it contradicted. Now, support group is not an open conversation. And then I wonder, would you ever link to any material by, say, Randall O'Toole, who wrote Greenlight, who uses facts to debunk some transit myths? Or would you link to a news item involving a presentation by Ms. Haselden, who will probably speak next? My guess is not. So the voices are heard, but this is not a conversation. This is not a community outreach. This is not an educational messaging campaign. This is a propaganda effort. And as we get into the electioneering communications phase, you might find that you're challenged on that. Now, Mr. Schorsch, who's given so much room, has a criminal past, as I'm sure you know. Reading from a newspaper article in 2007 when he was caught, or when he was in court, adjudication was withheld over the objection of the victims who had their money swindled. Previously, Mr. Shores had adjudication withheld on charges he'd written 16 worthless checks to the public store. So my argument to you is people who engage in criminal behavior are given prominent exposure on the Greenlight Pinellas website. Critics have no police. We have one other item, news item there, a column by Ernest Hooper, the Tampa Bay Times, where he wrote, "Detractors will continue to beat the naysaying drum. A true leadership never achieves without enduring. Fire, gorgeous steel, ... Early Bolsheviks never wrote such stirring prose." I know a lot of you view me as a snake in the grass, but I would say to you, don't tread on the taxpayers. They won't have any snakes in the grass. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker? Come on up.
And my name is Barbara Haselden of St. Petersburg, and I just want to quickly address about the Greenlight Civic Committee, and I was on that committee, and at the last meeting, I think the committee was comprised of basically a cross-section of supporters. So I wouldn't say it was a cross-section of the community, it was a cross-section of supporters, and heavily populated by Sierra Club and other very activist supporters of this light rail project, which I have to tell you, with the Sierra Club, I really don't even quite understand that connection because of the water problems that we have here in Apalachicola and just all the problems that are going on with the water supply. I don't quite get why you're behind this project. But aside from that, we all are wanting a better transportation system for the folks like the young lady that was up here a little earlier. However, 300X, I recently got the ridership, and I think the 300X is the one that goes across to the Howard Franklin, which is where the bridge would be proposed, the light rail. And according to the numbers, in speaking with Mr. Miller, it looks like maybe 130 people a day are utilizing that service. So that's pretty expensive per head of the need, the demand for the service is very low. Now, the people who do ride the service, of course, they want more service, but we just don't have that many people that are needing that service. I want to quickly take the rest of my time and read an article out of the Charlotte, recent article, which is April 12th. Charlotte area can't pay for transit needs. The Charlotte region's plans for public transit will fall billions of dollars short of the region's needs, leaving local leaders scrambling to find new ways to pay for projects such as the proposed Red Line commuter rail to Lake Norman, officials said Friday at a transportation summit. The politicians painted a stark picture. A sales tax in Mecklenburg County, which was instituted in 1997 to pay for public transit, will fall $2.3 billion short of projections, partly as a result of the recent recession. The state recently eliminated its New Starts Matching program to fund some projects. Federal funding is more uncertain than ever, with cuts of at least 5 to 15% expected. If we don't do something different, this 2030 or 35 plan is going to be more like a 2080 plan, said Charlotte City Council member David Howard, a Democrat. The Charlotte Chamber organized the annual Transportation Summit, which was held at the Valentine Hotel and Lodge. This is not a happy story, said Huntersville Mayor Jill Swain, who called Mecklenburg's plans to fund transit completely and totally obsolete. Swain and Howard are on the Metropolitan Transit Commission, a regional group focused on mass transit. The group is set to deliver a report this month on how to fund the plan. As a matter of fact, we were just going to pass around a hat to collect money. Swain joked. Currently, revenue from the county's sales tax is fully devoted to extending the Lynx Blue Line to UNC Charlotte. That 9.3 project is expected to cost more than $1.1 billion. Other projects, such as a $119 million proposed streetcar line, are in limbo. Without sufficient sales tax revenue to pay for the streetcar and Charlotte...
You'd wrap up your comments, your time's up.
Am I at? Okay. So my point is that, and thank you for that time, Jeff, I appreciate that. As a citizen, I really appreciate that 3 minutes. And so I just want to say that in closing up, that the task force have found that they need $5 billion more to go on with their original project, that they have fallen short. So a word to the wise.
Thank you. Next speaker. Come to the front. You have 3 minutes.
I don't need that long. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. My name is Marie Jeanette Ben, and I ride your bus. I have a question for Mr. Brad Miller. I missed part of your announcement about the new busing. Are you going to have a transfer point elsewhere than Williams Park in St. Petersburg because the place is infested with the homeless and I'm sick and tired of having to deal with them? Are you going to have a transfer point elsewhere, or is it still going to be down there where the slum is?
The city has a plan to build a separate transfer center and get the buses out of Williams Park.
Excellent. Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Hello, my name is Jennifer Winter. Thank you guys for your time. I'm here today because I am a Greenlight Canal supporter. I graduated from the University of Florida and I moved back home because I want to attend the University of South Florida Stampede for my master's. But, you know, it's really hard getting around here. Moving back home, there wasn't really a way, you know, to get downtown. I personally live on the beaches, and a lot of my friends, you know, live in the downtown area. You know, that's where a lot of the stuff for the youth is happening. And right now there's the beach trolley, but it doesn't go, you know, at all times. So it would be really great, you know, if we move forward with this and start really connecting Tampa Bay, because I think that's what it's really about, you know. So I thank you guys for the process. I was on the civic committee as well, and there was a dialogue. There was a connection, there's talking, so I really think it's an open forum for everyone to come. And there was a, you know, variety of people. Everyone's voices were heard, so thank you guys for that.
Thank you. No one else wishes to speak? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? Oh, okay. Another speaker?
Hi, I'm Dave Kovar from Safety Harbor, and I'm a little nervous. I don't do this all the time. I just came, I don't represent anyone but me, although I hang around with all these groups, both sides. I've attended all their different meetings. I'm retired. I've been retired 10 years. Although I traveled, I was a million-miler. I retired here to Pinellas County. I love it here. However, when I traveled, there were certain cities that were just a delight and others that were a pain because you needed a rental car and you had to get your way around. And the cities that were a delight, you could get up from the airport, you would get on a train, you would go right down into the business district, or in our case, we would locate our offices at the end of a hub. So the cities that were wonderful, you guys can probably tell me, were Boston, Chicago, Washington with the Metro. I would jump on the blue line, transfer, get on the red line, come up into the Hyatt. Our office was across the street. I would never see a car. I could walk to my restaurants. San Francisco was a delight. From my hotel, I would take the BART, walk to my hotel, and I would take the streetcar down to the Embarcadero and eat. It was fantastic to be in towns like that. I went on a vacation. You guys probably know this, in Paris. I took my son to London. Mind the Gap, we had a ball. We didn't need a car. We didn't need to park a car. We weren't burning gas. We weren't trying to find gas stations. We weren't worried about any of that. As tourists, as a businessman, I think sometimes we get lost in how many people live here, how many people live there, are they going to work, where's their doctor? We forget that there's a whole group of people that are coming into town, renting cars, parking cars. My wife is going to Detroit right now on her vacation to see her family, and I'm going to have to pay $600 to rent her a car for 10 days. And what if she could get on a train in Detroit and just go to her parents' house? How wonderful that would be. I did not see the newest towns, San Jose, Dallas, Charlotte, because they've happened since 2003. So if we could measure tourists, business travelers, the things that those cities had for me was they had a single destination, my office, but don't we have a destination? The Don Cesar, downtown. The last thing, of course, I think the grid versus the hub is going to be fantastic for local people. I live right on Mullen Booth, and I watch 10 million cars drive by, and not a single bus runs up and down the Mullen Booth. And why I was late today, should we all have a chuckle, I was caught in traffic. So driving to the PSTA meeting, I got stuck in traffic. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other speakers?